Okay, so we are live now. At least the computer says that we're live. So welcome everyone. Tonight we're going to do a little bit different. We're not going to draw or color in or do anything that we'll do in my style or my way of drawing things. But I really wanted to review this book. I got this book for a while now. This is a watercolor book. It's very thick, by the way, if you can see. Don't know if you can see, but it is very thick. The pages are like really thick. It has about 120 or so pages, okay? So, hi. Hello, Marlena. Hello, Johan. I'm assuming that you can hear me because otherwise you would have said something like, we cannot hear you, or something of the sort, right? So I just wanted to review it because this is how I also just learn myself, by just reviewing this type of books that other people have made. I try to go through them, I try to learn new things, new techniques, or do what they do in the book but in my style, right? One thing, for example, like this is really loose watercolor, which is not necessarily what I always do, right? So I will learn the stuff, but I would do it a little bit much more controlled than here. It's like water is overflowing, right? So this is the book In the Forest by Dana Fox. I don't remember how much I paid for it. I bought it long ago, and it was like 30 or so euros, I think. I bought it by the book depository, but you can probably find it on Amazon or any other stuff. But it was like this kind of end of the year sale, and everything was a lot of things off. So then I bought a lot of books, and that's where I have lots of books. Okay, so let me first start with every page in this book is watercolor paper. So other watercolor books, only the paper, only the part that you're gonna go and try out is made out of watercolor paper, but not every page. But this one, by contrast, this one, every page is a watercolor page. So theoretically, I could go ahead and utilize, for example, this page. This is watercolor paper. Now, I'm not gonna say that it's high quality, 100% cotton and so on, because otherwise it wouldn't have been costing only 30 euros. But just saying that every page is watercolor paper, which is nice actually in a way. This I really like. They like these two mushroom kind of compositions. I'm hoping that we get to draw these ones. Okay. So it starts directly into the meat of the problem, right? It has some example of really loose, nice florals, which I actually wanted to try to reproduce, but in a little bit my own loose style, which is not as loose as this one, okay? But I wanted to try to reproduce this. I have my normal watercolor notebook there, and I will try to do that. But first, let's see. So first impression, really good, because every page is a watercolor paper page, okay? And what does it it teaches you different things, right? It teaches you wet on dry. So you're gonna do wet on dry. So wet is the ink, dry is the paper, so you don't add extra water. And you can do acorns, caterpillars, ferns, ladybugs, clovers, flowers, monarch butterfly, which was gonna be nice. A moth, I already saw the moth. I'm already in love with the moth, so I'm probably gonna do that. Some rose, mushroom. The mushroom is on page 33. Then you go in wet on wet. So what happens is, majority of the times, this type of paper is being not very high end. When you do wet on wet, it's not gonna work that well. I already know, but just putting it out there for everybody to know that I don't have high hopes for that one. But what I want to be is, I want to be inspired. It's not about the quality of this one, because what I can do is get the drawings that she has, for example, she has some drawings here, like for the acorns, okay? For example, the acorns. I could just draw them on my own paper and just do it properly, okay? So there's a reason why I bought this book, and it was not for the quality of the watercolor paper, but it's nice to have, right? Okay. And then we go into painting fur. This is going to be interesting because I'm not very good at painting fur or very tiny things. So, yeah. Then it says ink and wash. Dark and fine, raspberries, tree, frog, owl. So, let's see. First impression, really good. And let's just try the paper, right? Like first impression. What can I say? It's very thick and it doesn't really lay flat, okay? So this is something that you need to a little bit work it. I'm just gonna assume that somebody wants to use hooker's green because this looks like a hooker's green. And what I'm going to do is I have these clippers, right? And because I don't want the paper to warp, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just clip it like this here, and clip it also on this other corner, making sure that it stays flat, and then I'm gonna clip it here on the top because this paper, being not so nice, tends to warp. Now I really need to put something underneath. The problem is the book is too thick. Let me see if my HR sketchbook, yeah, okay. Ideally when you do watercoloring it should be flat, right? And then if your paper is just like moving about doesn't really work. So what's the first try? The first try, it says wet on dry. So you're just gonna take a color and you're gonna do a gradation. So from the darker light, so you just add more water. Let's assume that I have a color here on my palette, and like I said, by the looks of it, this looks like a hooker's green. So I'm just gonna take that one. Okay, so I'm gonna try the darkest. I'm gonna see what the quality of the paper is. Okay, so the paper is dry. Maybe my hooker's green is a little bit too, maybe I misjudged it. Maybe it's not hooker's green. What I'm testing here on the paper is the following. If I follow the line, does it bleed? This is a sign of a weird paper quality. Like when you have really cheap paper, then what happens is when you go to the margins, even if you didn't put any water in there, even if nothing happens, it will just go on and bleed all over the place. What I notice is the water gets absorbed really fast, right? So that means that obviously not 100% watercolor paper. So that means you have to be very careful because you will get dry patches very fast. What I'm doing is I'm just adding some water and I'm gonna let it dry. It will be interesting to see how I let it dry. The good part about it, it does not bleed, so that's good. But you can kind of see the texture of the paper underneath. I don't know if you can see it on camera. Hopefully you can see it on camera. Okay, let's try a lesser dark of this green. I think in the end, I don't think it was hooker's green. I think it looks more like sap green now that I look at it, but it doesn't actually say which color. It's not like something she says that it's a color or not, so you know. So This is lesser dark than the other one, but still pretty dark. It's an okay paper, just that you have to work really fast with this paper. It doesn't warp that much. That's good. You have to work really fast so that it doesn't dry out on you. Okay. Well, let's make it even more watery. How is everybody doing? I hope everybody's doing okay tonight. It's 6th of February. We're already in February. I just cannot believe that we're already in February. And not the lightest. Let's see if I can even make it lighter than the other one. I can already see that the paper has problems. The paper that I see, it has problems because it's very textured, and the more water you add, so on this one you can work, but you shouldn't work with very much water, because otherwise, so if you're gonna overwork this, if I'm going to go now with an extra color on top of it without it being dry, I'm going to peel off, look at this, I'm gonna peel off the layer of paper because it's not all that good. Let me try to zap it with a heat tool to see how it reacts. I need to put the heat tool on. Okay. Okay. It didn't warp too much. Okay, it didn't warp too much. I'm really happy about this. It didn't warp too much. However, the texture of the paper, you can really see. It's not gonna look like how they did it here when they printed it out, right? Because this is really textured one. But it will make for very interesting color combinations. Let's try this one. I don't even know. This is kind of a peach kind of thing. I'm thinking the only one that I have that looks like that is a little bit Naples yellow red. So let's see, Naples yellow red. It's a very opaque color though, what I have. So let's see. So plus points for the fact that it doesn't warp too much. Many plus points to that one. Plus points that it doesn't bleed. Minus points, well, it's not 100% cotton, and if you're not careful if you put too much water, then it's going to fray the paper. It's gonna create all sorts of random stuff. And another minus point, everything that I add here, the color dries out really fast, so the water doesn't really sit on top, so it doesn't give me enough time to do much. Okay, let me dry it. It dries pretty fast. Now I'm gonna do what they show is glazing, right? I'm gonna do a second layer on top, but only for half. So same consistency of paint. By the way, I'm using Naples yellow red. Oh, and I mixed it in with green. Why was I mixing it with green? Don't ask me why, but Naples yellow red. Glazing was okay, again, doesn't bleed. So all in all, comparing it with my other two watercolor booklets that I got, and here I'm going to name and shame. I have a Prima Marketing one that's really not very smooth, and another one, I think from the Mint Gardener. I would say that on that side the quality of this paper is better. It's maybe also because it's also thicker than the other two, and so that could have something. Okay, so that was the first impression on the paper, and now I actually want to start doing some of the paintings, because why not? Let's do it. I saw that she's using just pretty normal colors, so nothing fancy. I'm gonna pick up this green that I mixed to the glazing work. So wet on wet, I think it will work. I don't think we're gonna have much problem with it. It didn't warp like the other booklets. I did the same. I binded them in all the corners, but it still warped like crazy. But this one, as long as you keep it like this flat, doesn't warp. So very good. Okay, which one should we try first? Let's try the acorns. Why not? I'm quite curious how this one. I never was able to do very good acorns, to be honest. So I'm just going to go on a limb to say that I'm not very good at acorns. But let's see. I am going to clip it on here, making sure it doesn't warp. Clip it on here and clip it on down. I don't want to add anything down here because here is where my arm is, right? And if I add anything then I'm gonna constantly drag it along, so I don't want. Okay, let's go along. What does she use for the acorns? Yellow ochre. Okay, I have yellow ochre, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, I have yellow ochre. Raw umber. Do I have raw umber? I have raw umber, and it says burnt umber. Do I have burnt under umber? Okay, I have all of them. Let me just add water to the pans because I think I need to just. So I'm gonna add some droplets. Yellow ochre, raw umber, and burnt umber. I need to just let them activate a little bit. I'm gonna swirl my paint around and my stuff around. So let me show you what I'm doing here on my palette. And this is the raw umber. It's pretty dry. To be honest, I haven't used this palette in quite a while. Right? So it's a very, let's say, washed out brown. It's a very light brown raw umber, although it looks to be different. Okay, burnt umber is very dark. The problem I have is that their raw umber, you know. Okay, let me show you this. I'm looking at other colors on this one. It's very red. Okay, this is a interesting thing because this is red, and then they put here raw umber, but this, for me, this doesn't look like raw umber. This looks like raw sienna, or maybe burnt sienna, not raw umber. This looks like burnt sienna because you need a reddish color. So it says burnt umber. Burnt umber, okay, I agree, it's like this dark, but this one, looks more like burnt sienna. Let me show you. Doesn't this look like burnt sienna instead of raw umber? Because raw umber is this. This does not look like raw umber to me. Okay, so the second impression is the colors might not be accurate, right? Okay, I'm just gonna go on a limb and say that it's actually burnt sienna that I need in yellow ochre and not raw umber. Okay. And if you don't see what I do, is I'm making some puddles here. This is gonna be burnt sienna. This is gonna be yellow ochre. The properties of yellow ochre, there are very many and interesting, but it's pretty opaque color. It's a nice yellow. It's a very brownish warm yellow. Okay, and then burnt umber. It's on this other side. Just mixing some colors, okay? And it says, working on the bottom half of the acorns first, fill the areas with a light wash of raw umber mixed with yellow ochre. We already saw that this is not raw umber, but this is burnt sienna. So I'm just gonna mix yellow ochre with burnt sienna, okay? And I'm just dipping my brush here, then dipping my brush in this one, dipping my brush, second one, third one, okay? Okay, so was not expecting that. It's okay. I mean, maybe if you're a beginner, please take note of this, because if you're a beginner and you don't really know your own colors, you might actually think that what it says there is correct, right? So try to be careful, I would say. Okay, so everybody can see what I'm doing? Yeah, okay. Then I'm doing a light wash of this one. To be honest, yeah. This is in a way also a style of watercolor that is called no line watercolor, because you don't have a line, so it's just gonna go, it's maybe a very thin pencil line, but you just follow the outline and go there. So okay, I'm gonna do the second one as well. And as with any watercolors, I think the trick is layering. I don't think there's anything more interesting that people do when they watercolor. I think the first layer always looks terrible, even on my flowers or anything. And then you just add more layers and more layers and more layers. Even if you would do loose watercolor, you still need to add layers and you still need to add stuff. So I wouldn't stress myself too much. Here I'm doing a little bit of wet on wet because I want to deepen some of this color. So, and normally I would have went with a wet brush and just made some lines so that it informs you of the direction where it goes, right? this paper doesn't support it. Okay, but I'm not too worried about it. I was expecting that of the paper. Okay, I'm gonna zap it. Okay, then it says the second time, once it's dry, which is dry now, add a second wash of the same color. Try to mimic the streaky texture of Acorn by painting light lines from the top of the area to the bottom point. What I was trying to do. Okay. So, let's see. Glazing to the fullest. What I will try to do is blend everything, because I did some lines now. Let's see if it actually can blend. And it cannot, because it's already dry. See, that's the problem. This is a technique that you should know, right? You should go ahead and create these light lines. But this is a technique that works on good paper, not on this type of paper. So this is the struggle that you will have, right? So my idea is you can just buy this one and draw it yourself and do it on proper paper. Okay, I'm trying my best, but it doesn't necessarily work very well. Okay. I'm doing the margins first, so I can blend them. I don't want to have the same thing here where it dried out, so I'm trying to work as fast as possible. This part is gonna be more lighter. Okay, then I'm gonna add okay, I am adding wet in wet actually, so I'm just trying to compensate for the lack of the paper quality by actually doing some different technique, which is gonna be wet in wet, just to mimic the strikes of an acorn. Okay, I think I will be really bad if people are gonna ask me to review their products and I'm gonna say, oh yeah, we're gonna pay you to review your product, and I'm gonna go like I'm doing now, right? It's gonna be really bad for business because I'm not very, let me see, is it liftable? I'm trying to lift where the highlights will be, but I'm trying not to overwork too much because the paper is gonna fray. Okay, okay. And now it says step number 3, add another layer using burnt umber around the bottom, top and sides of the acorn. You can blend any harsh edges out with water. Okay, so burnt umber is gonna be really dark. So and I'm gonna blend. What does blend mean? You come in with a brush that only has water and you try to pull the color down. Okay. Okay. I'm just gonna assume that this part is also pretty dark. Blend. I don't want harsh edges. Okay. Okay. I have a feeling I'm gonna have to go in with a third layer, with a fourth layer, right? Okay. Now I went to the thicker consistency of this burnt umber. So I'm blending it out, no harsh edges. It still looks nice. Okay. I think on this one I put too much water. I will go again on the next layer. So I'm just going to add some burnt umber. Blend, just to do the darkest lines down. Already looks much better. I'm gonna do also on this one. And it's still wet, that's why it works like this. Otherwise I wouldn't have done it. Okay. Blend. Cool. I'm going to zap it again. This one needs another layer of the really dark burnt umber. Okay. Now it looks much better. Okay. Not the smoothest blend as I wanted, like you would get with arches, but you know what? It could be worse. I still didn't get the redness that I wanted. I think I put way too less burnt sienna because the actual picture that they show that's really red. Anyway, now we're on number 4. It says fill the top acorn with a light wash of burnt umber and then apply additional layers as you did previously, darkening shadowed areas as much as such as the center and the sides of the cups. Okay. So light wash of burnt umber. Burnt umber is here. Let's try. This is the first wash. It's okay. Doesn't really explain what you need to do. It just says add more layers. It doesn't explain how to create the texture that it has there, but I'm just gonna watch it as I'm watching now. I'm just gonna assume certain things that you're supposed to be doing. So yeah, remember, best thing to do is do the layer, dry in between, do another layer, dry in between, do another layer, etc, etc, etc. Okay. Okay, notice here the quality of the paper is the one that gives you these weird harsh edges and blooms and stuff. It's very hard to get rid of once it's dry. You can go, notice I can go with a brush, but then I just pick up pieces of paper because the paper already reached its limit. So you're gonna have these pieces of paper that are just sticking out. But you know, all in all, for just a watercolor book, I think it's okay. Not much you can do about these kind of things because, yeah. I'm doing burnt umber. I'm doing really dark on the top there, and then maybe I'm gonna bring in some burnt sienna. Not everywhere, but just to give it a little bit more cohesive view. I'm gonna bring burnt sienna here as well. Right. But like I said, if you are a beginner in watercolor, I hope you don't get frustrated with this one. I mean, for me, I'm just taking these books with a grain of salt because I kind of already know how to watercolor stuff. Okay. But I don't get much bogged down by the fact that I cannot do all the stuff that I wanted to do on artist paper or something like that. So maybe it is what it is. Now it starts to warp a little bit more because I did so many layers that I can feel it starts to warp. But again, not much you can do about it on this at this stage. I mean, it is what it is. So take it with a grain of salt and take it as a learning point for what you need to do, right? And then you'll be fine. Use proper paper when you're doing it for real. Okay. I'm gonna zap him one last time, and then I'm gonna make those weird patterns that are checkered. Okay. So the way you do this is you make those lines here, and then we start making the other lines. Not because this is practice, I'm not gonna do a very good job of it, but you know. Still looks okay. Still looks good. The shape of this one, it's a bit different. I'm not really taking care of it. Okay, this was a little bit weird, just because she doesn't really explain. She says, do a scale-like pattern. How do you do a scale-like pattern on top of stuff, right? It's supposed to be explaining how you do it. But there was no explanation, so I just did my own piece. However, I think these two acorns look a million times better than all the acorns I've done before, even with all the weird stuff. Okay, so I might even add some more color in between this pattern. I'm adding some more burnt sienna, just because it looks really cool. Yeah. And this one burnt sienna. Okay. So what is my first impression is you cannot overdo it with the water, because the paper just gets destroyed. You do get the harsh edges because it's not 100% cotton. You cannot properly move the paint, and you cannot properly lift it. So that's the other thing. But all in all, I think it looks okay. Let's do something that she doesn't do in this book. Let's just do some random leaf. Okay, just doing the rich green gold. Let me see. Cool. And another one. I think though this paper might look okay for just one layer or 2 layers max. I think it will be just perfectly fine. No, I see no problem with that one. I'm trying to do the leaf that is normally with the acorn, right? So I'm really trying to do that. Okay. I will let the layer dry and then I'm going to do some veins to see how that goes. I do think I need a little bit more. Okay, I overdid it now. Trying to lift the color. It's okay, it's just a practice. Okay, and then I'm gonna use olive green to just draw the lines, okay? This is more of a turned leaf. The advantage is that indeed it doesn't bleed this paper, so I can do this kind of details at the end. It actually works. So that's good. Okay. I'm not gonna work it a little bit more, right? Because if I do, I'm just going to ruin the paper. I think it's enough. Okay. Let's see the damage that we caused. Let's see how much it warped. Okay, the page is really warped. Don't know if you can see it. Can you see it? Yeah, I know it's a little bit not visible, but the page is really warped. However, I'm quite impressed, okay? It didn't completely die out. And you can do some pretty cool stuff, right? If you have the patience for it. Okay, that was the acorn. Let's see. This is the caterpillar. The fern, Hooker's dark green and burnt umber. Oh, that sounds nice. This should be an easy one to do. I'm not gonna do it tonight though. Let me see. Oh, the ladybug. Crimson, Indian red, and ivory black. Ooh. I would say alizarin crimson, perlin maroon, and then the black. Indian red. I think she uses some other stuff. It's cool how she can make only with color with no line coloring. It's really cool how you can see this. But ivory black, to get this one, to get this dark color, you're gonna have to really make a very concentrated mix of that color, right? But the design is really nice. Should we try that? I'm thinking we can try that. I don't have much hopes for the wet in wet technique for this one, because it's like the paper is not gonna hold out. But I think for just an illustrative purpose, I think this will work perfectly fine. Okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm going to do alizarin crimson, perlin maroon, and ivory black. Do I have ivory black? I have ivory black. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. It's only 3 colors. Okay. So, let's try alizarin crimson. Because, okay, she says they're crimson, but I'm not sure if there is a color called crimson. I only know alizarin crimson. So, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna try to go around the black where the black should be. And remember, it dries really fast, so you gotta be very fast on this one. Add the water, add your color. Ideally, maybe you would have the colors in a puddle created already, so you don't have to go back and forward. But yeah, it will be fine for now. If you add too much water, then it's really not gonna look nice, because the water is gonna unevenly absorb in the paper. And this is also the reason why, ladies and gentlemen, although a lot of people were saying you should make a watercolor color book and stuff, no. I mean, I could, but then only if I can make my watercolor color book on 100% cotton paper, and even then I would have to think about it. When it's in a book form like this, it's very hard to keep it flat, let's put it this way. So even if I would have 100% cotton, do I believe that it's going to look any better? No, because I cannot get this book flat. So no matter what I will try, that's going to be painful. But at least the Ladybug is pretty simple to do, I'm assuming. Funny story with the Ladybugs, actually. The first time when I decided that I wanted to learn how to draw for myself was when I saw a nice card. So I was going for a bike, and then we stopped at an it's kind of where you stop to get a coffee and a juice and some apple pie. A lot of people stop because when you're biking and you're biking for a lot, then you see, because it dries unevenly, I need to go back and forward to make sure that it's all even. Where was I? Yeah, we stopped there, and then there was this postcard which was really nice with a bunch of ladybugs all under one another with grass and everything. And for some reason I thought I would really like to be able to draw that. So that's when I got the idea that I want to draw my own things. I don't want to buy any more art supplies and stamps and so on. I just want to draw my own thing. So yeah, let's blast it. Okay, now we're gonna go with Perlin Maroon. And I'm going to do here some darker areas. Perlin Maroon is a really dark red, really nice dark red, I would say, for all intents and purposes. So what we will do, just gonna start blending it out. It's gonna look really nice. And I forgot to blend this one out, and probably it's already dry by now. It's okay. After this impromptu review of the book, I will have a much more in-depth video about it. And I'm gonna say all the things that I like about it and all the things that I don't like about it. Okay, that went well. Now let's do ivory black. And like I said, we need a really concentrated ivory black. And the bad part about ivory black is that it's a very transparent color. So it's probably going to require us to do multiple layers. Let's see. Oh, this is cute. The color moves where I don't want it because the paper is warped. When the paper is warped, then the color would move where it shouldn't. Because gravity does its thing, right? So you can't help it. We'll see how the black dries out. What I notice in there is that it's also a tiny little bit faded out into the red. So I think I'm gonna do that with just some Perlin Maroon. Yeah. I really like ladybugs. They're so cute. They don't give anybody any problems. They're like the cutest ones ever. Okay, that's nice. And now I'm just gonna assume that it's some gray-ish thing here. These are the legs. So I'm using Payne's gray. And this is Payne's gray, not Payne's gray blue, because I'm not using any blue. Just want to do the legs. Okay, and then this other one. And the head is gonna be with the dark. And then we're gonna add something light in there, in the eyes and so on. And now it really looks like a ladybug. Okay. And now the antennae. Oh. Okay. I want to do some more darker color. I didn't even read what the book said, because I'm just okay. This is also maybe part of the good part of the book. You don't need to read what it says, because the picture of the end result is pretty clear. So you can just take that one as the example and just try to reproduce. This way you will also learn to maybe paint by example, to really look like how things are in real, and do that. Okay, I am personally happy with how the ladybug is. Okay. Notice that the red kind of mixed with the black here, because I didn't let it dry. It's okay. This is what happens on wet when you don't let stuff dry. Colors mix with each other, but it's okay. In the picture it actually shows that it has some of these whiter parts inside. So okay. What do you guys think? I think it looks okay. I think it looks really nice. So, first impression. It's not as bad as everybody thinks. The drawings inside, they look pretty nice. And the drawings look like for beginners, if you want to learn how to draw some basic things, some basic insects, some basic flowers, the forest and so on. The paper, not high quality, but also not the lowest quality. Okay, I've seen worse. I've really seen worse before. I'm thinking I need to really darken up the head. Let me darken up the head. I have no idea if ladybugs really look like this, but I'm just gonna assume they do. And by that, I don't mean the body, but I mean the head. But I'm just gonna assume they do. Okay, now it looks better. Actually, it looks quite nice, right? If I were to compare it with the original, it looks okay. It doesn't look too bad. I even got this middle line correct, right? From here, it looks like she used a little bit of white, but I don't need to use white or anything. Here she also used a little bit of white, or maybe she's just picked up some of the color. That could be it. Lifting the color. Oh no, she says adding, the last spot is add spots to the black and finish by adding a few white highlights to the reds as picture. Okay, so she does utilize white as a highlight. It's okay, you don't have to stress. Okay, okay, that was my first impression on this book. I'm gonna do a much more deep dive later on, and then I'm going to continue. I think I like it. I like some of the stuff, like the feathers and so on. This is gonna be really nice. And the birds, I mean, I'm really terrible doing birds. Oh, here, wet the paper, dropping colors, tilt to blend. I don't think that's gonna work very well. Oh, look, there's a house. Okay, this is gonna be interesting how to do it. Oh, this is gonna be cool. A cabin, and then some red flowers, and then some nice rose. Okay, this was the one that I really wanted to try, the moth. So even if it doesn't work very well on this one, I'm still gonna do it on my own paper because I love moths. And some trees and some butterflies. Okay, so all in all, would I recommend it? Yeah, I would recommend it. If you are a beginner watercolor, you want to learn, you have probably don't want to start learning how to draw things from scratch, and you just want to learn the watercolor part, that this is an awesome book. It doesn't start you from the beginning like majority of the watercolor books that I've seen, where the first 30 pages they just spend on, oh, this is the brush you're gonna use and this is the stuff you're gonna do and stuff like that. It actually goes directly into the meat of the problem, and you have to watercolor something on that stage. Yeah, it's perfectly awesome. So why not? Recommend. If you find it on discounts or anywhere else, please go ahead and do it. That was it for tonight. Thank you so much for joining me on this awesome live stream. I think from next week I will try to do it at different times, maybe in the middle of the week and not so much in the weekend, but it remains to be seen. Okay, in the meantime, thank you. See you guys. Have a wonderful week ahead. Okay.